From a crane accident that was caught on camera to a petrol pump that caught on fire with blast. And at last, a wild aluminum fire in Spain that sent 2 workers running for their lives. Here are 17 catastrophic failures that were caught on camera. Number 17. Crane crash. In the Israeli city of Rishon LeZion, about 5 miles south of Tel Aviv, a demolition crew arrived to remove an old bridge. They drove 3 pieces of heavy equipment into the middle to start tearing the thing apart. Somebody must have miscalculated, because what happened next is not how you dismantle a bridge. The excavators weaken the center, which causes the section thereon to come loose. The entire thing crashes down, dragging the heavy machinery with it. It's like those cartoons where someone saws off the branch they're sitting on. Local authorities arrived and detained the site manager. They probably had a few questions for him about how this even happened. According to the Times of Israel, our 2 drivers suffered minor injuries during the crash. Apparently, accidents like this aren't uncommon due to poorly enforced safety codes. Number 16. Landslide near dam. On the Sutlej River in northern India, there is a concrete gravity dam called the Bhakra Nangal Dam. Reservoir Govind Sagar, as it is called locally, can hold up to 9.34 billion cubic meters of water. In terms of water storage, that places it as India's 3rd largest reservoir. In Himachal Pradesh, Bhakra Dam has grown in popularity as a tourist destination throughout time, declared the new temple of resurgent India by India's first Prime Minister. Luckily, no tourists were around in 1963 when a large-scale landslip happened at the entrance. 2 security guards had to run for their life. They were the only individuals in the area. Little stones were seen to be falling from the slope by the men in uniform.
ਉਹਦੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦੌੜ ਲਈ ਹੋਏ ਉਹ ਦੇਖੋ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਆने से पहले भाग चुके हैं ओए 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 ते बैरियर ते हैं जब चक्किया ए सटिया ये जरूर देख लिया ओए ओ वाह ओ यार पैच बढ़ गई हैं ओ मोया ये मुट्ठी तो बच्चों.
Being from landslide-prone India, they could both initially read the writing on the wall. Just before the mountain gave way and crushed their guard position, they made a quick getaway. According to the Geological Survey of India, 22 areas around the rim of the Bhakra Reservoir are prone to landslides. They said that unplanned excavations of hills and slopes in a few key places are leading to failures in the area. The reservoir also has some bad vibes attached to it. To fill it, they had to submerge about 371 small villages. Number 15. Building collapse. The largest capital city of the southern state of Karnataka is Bangalore, India. The city is home to almost 8 million people, making it the 3rd most populous in all of India. The city has year-round good weather. That's because it's situated on the Deccan Plateau, roughly 3,000 feet above sea level. It received the nickname Garden City because of all of its parks and green areas. However, don't be fooled by the lush surroundings. Building collapses are a major issue there, particularly during the wet season. Water erodes the shoddy foundations, causing tilts, fissures, and complete breakdowns. 40 individuals barely escaped a building that was about to collapse on September 27, 2021. Reports state that the residents left long before the building collapsed. However, there were 40 workers inside trying to prevent the structure from collapsing. The moment it reached the point of no return, everyone fled for their life. It appears that local authorities anticipated this disaster. A commission determined that 185 structures were at risk of falling in 2019. Only 10 of the ones that were designated for demolition actually got done. The administration reported that another 2,500 dwellings had been destroyed by the torrential rains. It remains to be seen if they were in danger of collapsing. Number 14. Demolition of the Smoke Tower. The Ohioan tiny city of Springfield is situated between Dayton and Columbus. They are located next to the remnants of a 90-year-old abandoned power plant beside the Mad River. In October of 1927, the Mad River Power Plant was inaugurated. They started taking it down in 2010. Everything was going well with the demolition until November. At that point, workers were assigned the duty of removing a 275-foot chimney. They removed a portion of the side and set it up with explosives. The tower was meant to drop into a clearing to the east. Sadly, it had independent thoughts. The structure housing the backup generators was severely damaged as the tower collapsed towards the southeast. Two 12,000-volt power wires were additionally shut down, which greatly increased the threat. Advanced Explosives Demolition Incorporated, an Idaho-based business, was in charge of the project. The tower was dragged in the incorrect direction by an undiscovered crack on the south side, despite the explosives detonating as intended. In the Springfield region, about 4,000 individuals lost electricity. Although the company was happy that no one was injured, its concerns did not end with the tragedy. The power line's owner, First Energy, reported that the poorly executed demolition resulted in losses of $19 million. They settled out of court after filing a damages lawsuit. Number 13. Landslide caught on cam. A tiny village called Ani Village is located in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. Locals were only able to watch in terror on August 24, 2023, as a landslip almost completely destroyed the town. The community was established at the base of a mountain that had a long landslip history. Indeed, the region might consist of a single large landslip complex. It is thought that the lower slope would be inherently unstable if that were the case. Perhaps they ought to have thought about that before constructing beneath a steep mountain. This almost tragic event may have been avoided. Fortunately, in the weeks before the landslip, the residents had seen cracks, and when the mountain finally toppled, everything was vacant. Number 12. The fire caught on the petrol pump. Russia's Volgograd is a sizable city situated on the Volga River. With a population of about 1 million, it is located roughly 600 miles south of Moscow. It was formerly known as Stalingrad, as most people are aware. During World War II, it hosted one of the largest battles in the history of warfare. Russia renamed the city Volgograd, which translates to Volga City, following the death of Stalin. On August 10, 2020, a nearby petrol station caught fire. Just after midday, first responders showed up to tackle the fire, but it was uncontrollable. They had no choice but to flee the area and watch as the building caught fire. The events that followed brought the renowned battle to memory.
Yeah, boy.
The fuel that was being transferred from a tanker to an underground storage tank is said to have caught fire when a spark from static electricity ignited it. There was a lot of petrol there, as you might guess, waiting to blow. The fire spread over 10,000 square feet. It required over 70 firefighters and a special firefighting robot to finally get under control. Number 11. Water tank demolition. Ahmedabad, with little more than 6.3 million people, is comparable to Toronto and Madrid as the 5th most populous city in India. Ahmedabad has seen significant modifications recently with the goal of modernizing and improving the city. This required the demolition of numerous outdated buildings and structures to create room for new ones. An ancient water tower located in the Chandkita district was one of the buildings. What was supposed to be a very simple task rapidly became more difficult.
એમના ઘર ઉપર પડી મમ્મી પેલા મરાઠીને ઘર ઉપર પડી તોડ નાખ્યું પાછળથી બધું એ
You can see a thin piece of rope or wire pulling on the tower. The structure gives way at the bottom, but ends up falling toward the house directly behind it. As the dust finally settles, we get a more clear shot of the damage to the ground level. Oddly enough, this was actually the third water tower to accidentally fall on somebody's house in just one singular month in India. In this instance, 11 people who were in the home were told to evacuate by the company in charge of the demolition. According to the family who lived there, they just showed up one morning and told them to be out by the afternoon. Hopefully, they were compensated for the catastrophic destruction caused. Number 10. Bridge demolition gone wrong. The Indian state of Uttar Pradesh has the small city of Muzaffarnagar, one of the most advanced and affluent cities in the state. It sits in the center of an extremely fruitful area. This implies that they have funds available to replace aging infrastructure, such as aging bridges. A demolition crew came on September 26, 2022, to take down a crumbling bridge. After advancing an excavator to the center, they started pounding away. It appears that this plan needs to have been reconsidered. Nobody should have been shocked by what happened next.
Oh! लिगड़ गया
Number 9. Sinkhole near the river. Southeast Asia faces a variety of natural calamities in addition to landslides. Water might spoil their day in different ways. Consider this sinkhole in Bangladesh. A sinkhole appeared under a beach home close to Dhaka's capital on November 19, 2015. Fortunately, authorities were alerted to the warning indications and left the house before it collapsed. The frightening thing is how fast the house vanished. The earth swallowed it completely. You would have never known what had formerly stood there if you had passed by after. There are two types of sinkholes like this one, natural and man-made. Topographical considerations are the cause of natural sinkholes. Sinkholes created by humans arise when extensive underground excavations wear down the foundation. Rain also plays a major role, as the water will weaken the dirt and cause things to sink. Number 8. Crane collapse. The Italian city of Varese is located close to the Swiss border. About 88,000 people call it home, along with a group of construction workers who have a terrifying backstory. Their perspective on cranes will never be the same. A massive crawler crane was installed at the Arcistabio railway yard on May 9, 2017. The enormous chunk of concrete bridge that it was carrying was supposed to be the new viaduct, but it was never installed. This is as a result of the crane toppling over, which produced the viral video. Fortunately, no one was injured when the crane collapsed. The crane operator is the one who just managed to get away. As the crane collapsed behind him, he leaped more than 10 feet from the cabin and fled for his life. If you thought the crash was loud on camera, imagine standing right next to it. An investigation found a problem with the crane itself, not with the operation. That was certainly good news for the operator. He may have escaped with his life, but he was probably worried about losing his job. Number 7. A dangerous demolition caught on cam. In terms of population and land area, Madhya Pradesh is the 6th largest state in India. Of the 72 million people who live there, 97% have access to power. This implies that the Department of Energy must produce a great deal of power. Any hiccups can be catastrophic. A demolition crew reached the West Central Railway Zone in Madhya Pradesh on September 4, 2020. It's obvious to even the non-expert that things weren't meant to proceed this way. They were working close to the railway, trying to break up a big slab of stone. If you look closely, you can see a huge boulder break through the overhead gearbox tower and fly through the air. Thankfully, nobody got hurt during the explosion gone wrong. A spokesperson for the railroad said, "We will ensure that more precautions are taken in the future." Number 6. Bus caught fire. Situated on the northeastern border of Vietnam, Beihai is the westernmost city in Guangxi Province, China. There are 4.3 million people living there, and most of them rely significantly on public transit to get around. However, there were 5 fewer buses available after May 2021. Around 6 in the morning, Beihai residents were getting ready for the day when 5 electric city buses caught fire. The fact that no one is sure how the fire started is terrifying. Rolling CCTV cameras saw smoke pouring out of the first bus. Then bang! It erupts into flames and shoots a thick plume of smoke skyward. The adjacent dumpsters catch fire as a result of sparks, and the fire swiftly moves to the next bus. After a few moments, the third bus and 2 dumpsters full of trash go up in flames. The fire eventually spreads to the 4th bus before anyone arrives to put it out. Look at how gutted the first few buses are. Nobody knows what started the fire. Most believe it was something battery-related in the first bus. Something malfunctioned, and it just exploded. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. I wonder who's going to pay for all that damage. Number 5. Aircraft runway landing. Nairobi, Kenya serves as the corporate home of Somali-owned airline Hala Airlines. They started providing air services to a number of locations in and around Kenya and Somalia in 2016. A normal flight ended dramatically on July 11, 2023. CCTV cameras were recording the entire event. The Somalian capital of Mogadishu saw the landing of a small plane on its airfield, carrying 30 passengers and 4 crew members. It appeared to be a typical landing at first, but then something went terribly wrong. The aircraft took a sharp turn off the runway and went through a barbed wire fence. Both propellers were destroyed, and the cockpit was severely damaged. Amazingly, only 2 of the passengers had minor injuries in the collision. Early analysis showed that the plane veered off the runway due to wind shear. Our Tanzanian pilot lost control due to strong winds, the report states. It caused a break in the left main landing gear, which explains why the plane veered violently to the left. Number 4. Crane accident caught on cam. Homanton is a densely populated area in the Kowloon district of Hong Kong. As you can imagine, traffic gets backed up when you have 20,000 people living in 0.3 square miles. Hong Kong launched the Central Kowloon Route project to alleviate the pressure. It's a 3-lane, mostly underground highway running through the Kowloon Peninsula. The project began in 2017 and should be done by 2025. But on October 15, 2020, they had a little accident. Workers hoist an excavator out of a giant ventilation shaft when it begins tipping forward. They know they can't save it and run as far away as possible. The machine finally comes loose and plummets into the abyss. Look at how the wires whip back and forth after all that tension lets loose. Work was suspended on the 42 billion Hong Kong dollar project while the highway department figured out what happened. Someone didn't rig it right, or the excavator was too heavy. Thankfully, nobody was standing down there when the machine fell. We can't say for sure how deep that shaft goes. Number 3. Fire in the factory. Els is a 131,000-person city in Spain. Many locals work in the Alu Europa aluminum factories, a series of 8 massive buildings and warehouses outside of town. Aluminum and other metals are very dangerous when they catch on fire. This is so because most fire extinguishers and water just increase the situation. That was a lesson 2 workers had to learn the hard way when an unexpected aluminum fire broke out. When something goes wrong in the rear, our employees carry on with their work. Oddly enough, the man with the blowtorch appears to have nothing to do with the fire. Fortunately, everything stayed contained and our 2 employees were unharmed. At temperatures over 5,000 degrees, metal fires can split water into its constituent elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen is an extremely explosive and flammable gas on its own. In the meantime, oxygen gives the fire new life. Stated differently, adding water to a metal fire is akin to adding petrol to a campfire. It quickly spreads, and the workers don't know what to do. One runs back to grab something before hightailing it out of the factory. That's when the sprinkler systems open a portal to hell. Seconds after they left the room, the entire roof caved in, covering the factory floor with flaming tiles. It took the fire department hours to quell the blaze. Number 2. Crack on construction site. Instead of states or provinces, Colombia is divided into 32 departments. The sixth largest department is Antioquia. Despite having mountains and valleys for the most part of its land, it is home to Medellin, the capital of Colombia, and stretches to a tropical paradise on the Caribbean coast. A group of construction workers heard cracking sounds originating from a retaining wall on March 12, 2023. Regretfully, this was the second time the same crew had experienced something similar at the same location. They all took a step back and observed as their laborious efforts came to nothing since they knew a landslip was about to occur.
¡Ay, gonorrea como de vino! ¡Ay, Padre Celestial! ¡Ay, Dios mío! Gracias a Dios que estamos de ahí. ¡Ay, marica, lo que nos...
Number 1. Worst marine oil spill. On April 20th, 2010, the Gulf of Mexico experienced the worst marine oil spill in history. Deepwater Horizon, also known as the BP oil spill, was one of the worst environmental disasters ever. An estimated 134 million gallons of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico, causing untold ecological damage. The incident began around 10 p.m. on April 20th, when an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon drilling rig claimed 11 lives. The Coast Guard notified NOAA around 2:30 a.m., but by then, the damage was already ramping up. 2 days later, the Deepwater Horizon rig sank about 5,000 feet to the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. Oil spilled from the site for 87 days before they finally capped it on July 15, 2010. By then, 3.19 million barrels of oil, or about 134 million gallons, had polluted the Gulf of Mexico. According to NOAA, oil rose from a wellhead on the seafloor through more than 5,000 vertical feet of water. It covered 1,300 miles of shoreline across 5 states in thick black sludge. Between land and sea, the oil slick covered 43,300 square miles, an area about the size of Virginia. In 2016, BP was found responsible for the Deepwater Horizon disaster. They were forced to pay over $20 billion in fines, most of which went toward restoring the Gulf Coast. In the end, no amount of money can ever repair the damage caused by all that oil. You remember the heartbreaking pictures of birds, fish, and other animals covered in black goop, don't you?